I'm Hallie Thompson, and I am running for U.S. Congress in Missouri's 4th District. Yeah, so I grew up here in Missouri and on a beef cattle farm in Montauk County area, and so Columbia was always the big town for us. And so I did know some folks growing up that were involved in extension with the University of Missouri, and I knew for a long time that I was really curious. As well. I knew I liked to ask questions. I knew that people got annoyed with how many questions I asked, but my parents never did. It was something that they really encouraged in me, was to constantly be looking at the world around me and observing. And so I went to undergrad for biochemistry because I thought I wanted to be a medical doctor. Turns out I learned along the way that although I was interested in medicine and saving lives, I wanted to save lives in another way and serve the world around me in another way, and that was through plant biology at the time. So that's how I became a plant biologist.
Right, and science is one of the fields where like women are underrepresented. So like how does it feel to be like in an industry as a woman where there isn't as much like equality and representation, especially?
Yeah, so we have an issue with the pipeline for women in STEM and women in a lot of different fields in higher education, and in specific in plant biology, actually, more than medicine, actually. We have very few women that are doing the more applied plant biology, so going out in the field and asking questions that are specifically relevant for farmers. So my research, I was one of just a few women that were out there on the farm planting and digging and out there, in the sun every day for 12, 14 hours. And so for me, it was very much, I felt that I represented women in that field and that I needed to be the best farmer, the best scientist that I could be in order to represent all the women that came after me. And so that the folks that work at the farm and people I worked with would see that I can do this. Women can do this just as well as my colleagues who are men. And so that is the primary feeling I had as a scientist, especially in the field, was even more pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And it really drove me in a lot of ways.
And how did that translate into like wanting to run for Congress?
Well, this is another place we don't have enough women, so I guess it kind of did. That's one reason that I'm doing it. But it's more the way that I do it that affects. It's, knowing that I am one of a few women of my age especially that are running for Congress.
Yeah.
And so I do need to represent really carefully and really and inspirationally in a lot of ways women that can find connection with me. But I don't think that that's the primary reason I was inspired to run for Congress. The primary reason I was inspired to run for Congress was seeing that folks of all types, not just women, were underrepresented and not listened to. And that has to do with my background in a rural area, and that has to do with being a woman in science, and that has to do with being a graduate student, researcher, and that has to do with a lot of the other things that I've done throughout my life.
And there's in like 2018, there's a large increase in women running for Congress. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's amazing. I am so excited for it. And it's funny because, people almost don't know what to do with so many women running because it's so unprecedented and exciting. And we are, in a lot of ways, unprepared because this hasn't happened before, but in very good ways because we're having to change systems and we're having to reanalyze the ways that we endorse candidates in primaries because there are so many women now running, and young women, and women of all backgrounds and experiences.
Right. Any other things you want to talk about, a specific?
Let me think. Always, there's always something, right? Do you want anything specific more to high school experience?
No, that's fine. We're mainly just experiences of women all across age groups and different backgrounds.
Okay.
Right?
So a little bit growing up I was the son kind of to my dad because he didn't have any sons. So I was the daughter that got to behave like the son that my dad didn't have. I got to be out there and actually helping in the field, and whenever we had like a soda break in the afternoon in the summer when we were doing hay harvesting, I was the one who was out there helping and talking with the people that were working on the farm. And so I think early on I started breaking a lot of the stereotypes that people that worked at the farm, my family, held. And that was something that I don't think I internalized fully until I got quite a bit older and started doing this in graduate school. And just showing, it doesn't matter where you come from. It matters what you bring to the table and how, that work ethic that you have and the understanding of really what you're trying to do with your life and the drive that you have. And that's what, gets you through the day. That's what makes good policy, and that's what makes good science. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.